Hey, what's happening, guys? This is Rob of Ro2R Review. Welcome back to the channel. Now, before I jump into the topic today, you'll notice that you're watching some gameplay footage for most of this video that will be of Metro Exodus that I'm playing on my Xbox One. And it's a base level Xbox One, it's not an Xbox One X. And even though we're talking about Nintendo and Zelda today, I'm just featuring this because it's the current game that I'm playing. And I've gone through a weird roller coaster with this game. I've probably gotten, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours of gameplay into it so far, maybe even less than that. And when I first started the game, I was really struggling with the overall delivery of like the narrative and how structured the game was and how you were never really alone. And there were just a lot of things that were driving me crazy about this game in the first hour or two. And I was like kind of regretting my purchase. Like, man, I was so excited for this game and I'm kind of hating it. It's beautiful, but I'm hating everything else about it. However, I did get to a point where the game kind of pulled the strings off and it's kind of just let me start to experience the game, the gameplay of the world, do a little bit of my own discovery and move at my own pace, similar to a Fallout kind of experience, which I love Fallout. And I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot more. So I thought it would be fun, instead of putting myself on camera again, to show you guys some of this because I'm playing it, I'm enjoying it, and I play games like this very weirdly. I like to walk around the edges of every area that I am, try to find secrets and equipment and, you know, random paths, and I just like to take my slow-ass time through games like this. So either way, enjoy this footage for when it's playing for this video, even though we're talking about Nintendo. And so, let's do that. Let's talk about Nintendo. What we're discussing is, there was a conversation I was actually sort of brought into on Twitter a few days ago that was regarding The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the freaking awesome looking remake that was revealed at the end of the last Nintendo Direct about a week or so ago. And I was kind of made aware of this kind of conversation and debate because of being brought into this Twitter conversation. This was, of course, a tweet from RealGamer27, who's a pretty good buddy of mine. I've known through YouTube and Twitter and stuff for a while. He tagged myself and a couple of other creators and people that he knows in this tweet about whether or not The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening would be worth $60 full retail price, given the fact that it is a remake of a 2D game and still is effectively on a top-down sort of plane, the way the original Link's Awakening was. And I thought it was an interesting conversation. I also, of course, then this morning caught a video from another good buddy of mine, Mizati, awesome channel, good friend of mine. He made a great video on this topic that I'm going to link below, and I implore you to check it out. Get some attention to that video, because it's a really good, just kind of conversation that he has about it, sharing his own opinions as well. A lot of which I agree with, some of which maybe not, and that's what I'll discuss, but I do want you guys to check it out. And so that, you know, brings us back to the actual conversation. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the 2019 remake in all of its glory, is that a game that should be worth $60? Obviously, the crux of the conversation and the debate is pretty apparent. You know, I kind of already hinted at it. The original Link's Awakening is like a, what, 1993 game, I think? And it's a 2D top-down Game Boy game. I mean, this is ancient technology compared to what we're used to doing and seeing and playing nowadays. And the remake, I guess, you know, there could be a debate on how much, I guess, they've changed or not changed. I mean, I'm not really sure, but the nature of the debate is because it's a remake of that old game, that maybe it shouldn't be a full retail price. It shouldn't be a $60 purchase. And that's the nature kind of the conversation. Some people might think that it is worth $60, some people might think that it isn't. My overall feeling is, at the end of the day, because I'm willing to trust what Nintendo has done with this game and added to this game, I think that it very likely is going to be worth $60. I have no problem saying that, you know, a $60 game to me looks like Link's Awakening. And I think that that's because what it seems like they've done with this game is rebuilt the game from the ground up. I mean, this is different than taking other games from previous generations, like Nintendo's even done this with, like, Twilight Princess, for example, and they just basically made it HD. They didn't add any new real content, and they didn't actually remake or redo the visuals and the textures and the polygons and the character models and the lighting. They didn't really redo any of that stuff. They just basically put an HD wipe over the entire game and the entire experience. And while it was great and really pretty, and I really enjoyed the HD remake on the Wii U, it was really just an HD shine that they added to the game. Whereas you look at what Nintendo did specifically with, and I've made these comparisons before, with Metroid Samus Returns, and even to a similar degree, kind of Metroid Zero Mission, those are situations where the games were rebuilt, redesigned, the graphics, the models, everything about it was redone from the ground up. And there was also tons of new content, new things to do, new elements to explore, new gameplay mechanics thrown into those games. And those games, I think, were justified at being sold for a traditional 3DS price, because of course those were a DS and 3DS games. Or sorry, Metroid Zero Mission was a Game Boy game. What am I talking about? That was a Game Boy Advance game. Samus Returns was a 3DS game. But they were sold for their respective full prices of those consoles at the times that they released. I'm also reminded of way more recently, last year, Shadow of the Colossus for the PlayStation 4, which I discussed on a video as well when it released. And I own it, I've played it, I loved it to death because I never played it on the PS2. That game was also a full recreation of the experience from the ground up. To my knowledge, they didn't add anything new to the game. If I'm wrong on that, some of you guys might be able to let me know. But to my knowledge, they didn't add anything. They literally just rebuilt the whole game, the world, the characters, the Colossuses, the Colossi. They rebuilt all of those from the ground up visually. And so to me, that was a situation where the game is almost brand new in a lot of ways, and that was a game that would have been worth $60, but amazingly, Sony decided to sell it for only $40. And so that brings us back to Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch, and, you know, to kind of go back to what I was saying there, is because I believe that Nintendo has... they've clearly rebuilt the game visually from the ground up and in stunning detail. I mean, this game is gorgeous. It is beautiful. It is vibrant. I love the style. Yes, it's like a chibi art style kind of thing, but I mean, it's Zelda, and it's remaking an old school top-down 2D game. I think it's the perfect way to do it. Very similar to when they made A Link Between Worlds. And I just adore the visuals and the graphics and the art style, like the art direction. I think it's just unbelievably fantastic. And so because they've done that, you know that they spent a lot of time and money and resources into giving us a new visual experience right off the bat. To me, that's worth a decent amount of the price, similar to with Samus Returns or with Shadow of the Colossus. I think it's the same thing. And I'm also willing to bet that, honestly, they've probably thrown some new stuff in here. We don't have that confirmed, and I don't know the game. Like I've said, it's one of the 3 Zelda games I've never played, all handheld games. I've never played it. So I couldn't tell from the little bit of footage if they've actually added anything new to the game, but we might eventually find out, hey, we've added new areas, we've added new mechanics, new weapons, new whatever the case. And to me, if that part is true, we would have a combination of a completely new engine and graphical style built from the ground up, and we would have new content and new gameplay mechanics and maybe new areas to explore. If all of that's wrapped into this, to me, that's a $60 game, man, especially when it's The Legend of Zelda and it's Nintendo, and we know how they treat their legendary legacy franchises. So I feel like the game would be worth $60 at that point. Now, if there isn't anything new to the game and it's literally carbon copy, everything is identical except it just has a brand new graphical engine, I would still be very okay with it being $60, and I will damn sure still be buying it, make no mistake. But I do think that then there is a little bit of a conversation of, okay, maybe they shouldn't charge full price, maybe it should be that budget $40. To me, that's where the comparison of Shadow of the Colossus comes back in, because that's what they did. They didn't add anything new, they just rebuilt the graphics, and they managed to sell it for $40. And it was a great hit, and it was a great game, and everyone loved it. So why shouldn't Zelda Link's Awakening maybe be in that same camp? And I think that that's a fair thing to say. I think that anyone who maybe thinks if there's no new content, if they feel that just redoing the graphics isn't worth the $20 difference between a $40 and a $60 game, then I get it. I mean, I guess that's up to them, and I can't really fault them because, yeah, there wouldn't be new content. It would just be a prettier game. And so for a lot of people, that might mean that since it's an old game, it should only have to be $40 or something less than $60. You know, you start to talk about whether or not it's a 2D game, and this is something Miza T talked about. He touched on this really well in his video. You know, if it's a 2D game shouldn't have to be full price or what have you, which, and I don't know if anyone in that Twitter conversation was even saying that exact thing, so I'm not trying to throw any, like, Real Game or any of those guys under the bus. I only kind of paid attention to my little part of the convo. But just in general, the idea of someone who might say 2D games shouldn't be full price, yeah, that doesn't really hold up to me, because there's plenty of 2D games that I think are worth full price. I mean, how often have we paid full price for 2D side-scrolling games and platformers on many consoles, and especially on Nintendo consoles. I mean, Yoshi's Crafted World is getting ready to come out in a few weeks, and unless I'm missing something, that game is full price. It's 60 bucks. I believe I ordered it from Amazon. I should check. I'm pretty sure it was $59.99. In fact, I am going to do that right now on my phone while I'm talking to you guys. But that game being full price, and many other games like it, Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, yeah, I know there's a controversy there, but these games, to me, those are 2D games on a 2D plane, typical, you know, Nintendo side-scrolling 2D action, full price. And yes, I'm looking at Crafted World, Yoshi, it is $59.99. So these are games that are essentially 2D using 3D character models, worth full price. I don't think anyone is complaining about that. And there's so many other examples, by the way, as well. And so, well, to me, the visuals of Yoshi's Crafted World are the same thing we're seeing with A Link's Awakening, because it's still 3D character models in a 3D world, but you're kind of moving. You're not even moving on a 2D plane in that game. I would even argue it's more 3D than Yoshi's Crafted World. And so, anyway, the long and the short of it is, those are reasons why, at the end of the day, I don't really think that just being a 2D experience or a remake of a 2D experience means it shouldn't be charged full price. To me, the game looks amazing, it looks beautiful, it's going to be a great Zelda experience, and so I'm happy to pay 60 bucks. So those are kind of my thoughts on this whole topic. I thought it was an interesting debate, an interesting conversation. Some people are discussing it and making videos and stuff, like I said, lots of back and forth and debating on Twitter, and I think it's interesting, man. I think the game's going to be great. I think it's going to be a humongous hit. Nintendo will not struggle to sell this game at 60 bucks, I promise you. It's going to be a massive success. And I am somebody who I can see the debate for a budget price if it doesn't have new content, and maybe that would be ideal. Yeah, maybe Nintendo should only charge 40 bucks if that's the case, but at the end of the day, I'm happy to pay 60. I think they are going to throw new content in, and the new engine to me justifies a lot of the price. So, hey, we're all going to pay 60 bucks for this game. I think we're all going to be very excited for it no matter what happens. So that's what I have to say. Where do you guys stand on this? Do you think that the game should be 60? It shouldn't be 60? Does it matter if they have new content? Do you think the graphics justify it, or is it too expensive in your eyes? Whatever you think, discuss below. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.